Welcome to Carl DeGregorio's Desk Session 75. I think that is a diamond anniversary. And 75 is a big one for anything, really. Would be huge in years, would be huge in any multiple of 10 or 75. It's a big milestone for many things, but it's a C. It's a dead C in the grade point average wars. And today, we come to you. I don't try to really delve into personal stuff here, but there's been some loss in the family, and there has been over the year 25 into 26. So the thought comes, obviously, what's appropriate. And I guess because I won't share the particulars, what's appropriate is, immaterial to the way I'm going to go about this. But and how much of what's appropriate or what's not appropriate, or how to feel or how to react or how to seem or whatever, a lot of it is vestiges or residuals or remnants of sort of historical and emotional fragments, and just the loss of a loved one, affection, and inevitably you try to be equanimable, or whatever that word is. And you think about what they say, the finer aspects of people, and you try to let feelings be preserved in the most sepia or kindest terms. And in a particular case with today's news, it's impossible not to see it that way. The person in question was lovely on all fronts, and that is what makes this easier to do, to be honest with you, because the hardest part of loss, I can share that my father passed many years ago, but the hardest part for me and for a lot of us is not wanting to get happy again, and because of a guilt feeling, a surviving guilt, or a loyalty to honoring the loss with grief, which is inevitable and right to do. But the last stage, and I'm not saying the Kubler-Ross stage, but for me, the last sort of awakening of a new idea was to smile, to dance, to sing, to celebrate is more appropriate, or more right to celebrate that loss, rather than to kind of go down with the ship mentality for what you think is a way to stay bonded in grief. And so I want to philosophically, emotionally, sort of stay bonded in joy, and in trying to do the things that mean something to me in the present. And corny as it may be, the Olympic torch, carrying on, lighting the fire, keeping the flame lit, all of those images that are appropriate as we head into an Olympic year. And we can say, I think that's what they would have wanted, all that. Maybe not, maybe so. I hope so, and I think so. I really do think so. But if not, then that even more of the point of carrying on in the living space. And so while I can postpone this, I can do something different. I can choose to wait another day? When would the day be right? And when when will it be okay to smile again? And I probably took too many what are too big a cost. I wiped too many years off the slate in that, for me, wallowing in general, and mourning things beyond loss. I was mourning things that were hard to even categorize or quantify. And maybe mourning for losses unaccrued is a form of depression or a form of self-indulgence. And I'll cop to all of that. I've been down, and I've been up, and I've been down. There's a great song. It's not on my list, but there's a great Mickey Howard. Is it Nikki? It's Mickey. Nikki, Nikki, Nikki Howard. Phenomenal singer. You would maybe recognize her as playing Billie Holiday in Spike Lee's Malcolm X. She's a great singer and had some jams in the early 90s, maybe late 80s, early 90s. And she's underrated as far as I can see, and as far as I can see. Her big hit was I'm in Love Under New Management. But that's a great song, but she has another one, You're the Only One for Me, and it's I've been up and I've been down, I've had my feet swept off the ground, I've been rich and I've been poor, I've had, and it's just, but it's all about, I guess, resilience after heartbreak, and I guess it's hard because is it progress that the bounce back is there? Because for me, I maybe have found they talk about resting bitch face. And I have a meme that I put out there that did pretty well when I posted it. It's a picture of somebody took of me like scowling at them, and I was wearing sunglasses and I was looking at the camera, but it was a candid shot, and I said I have resting witness protection face. But there is that sort of setting, that resting emotional state, and I think what I didn't know for a long time, which I know now, is that my resting bitch face emotionally was a resting bitch face, not a resting smile face. And so I've raised the resting state of my emotions. And when things that are inevitably sad, and when life is inevitably sad, and when life and loss come in equal measure, and when it even seems like it's piling up, I feel a little bit out ahead of my skis, to go with the Winter Olympic metaphor, because it doesn't feel as quote unquote bad as it used to. And I do believe it's because my meridian, my equator, was lower than needed to be. And through all the emotional work and things I've had to do to raise my floor, and it has made me just take these things differently. I wouldn't say in stride. You can't take loss in stride, but it doesn't have to be a setback to the degree of hurting your health, and that's a hard thing. And those are the sort of hang up and tendrils from past behaviors, or even historical tendrils, unfamiliar question in your heart and spirit. Why am I feeling this way? Is this me, or is this something else? And then guilt and things like that. And so when you raise your floor, it's just a quizzical thing, to be honest with you. And it the person we're talking about was very supportive of me hanging in there. I'll say that. And that buoyed me many times. And some of the remorse, regret, some of the making it about me has me wishing I had done more to appear on a screen for that person to see that faith rewarded, or to have things to report. But I think ultimately sticking with it is the admirable part, or the part that was encouraged. And I guess, unfortunately, the way life is, you have to do things, that you want to do, because you can't always bend the arc of history to your own will. And it, the feeling of running out of time to have made people proud, that always is on my heart, certainly with my dad. But what can you do? I mean, what can I do? And I have to really figure out what the hell any of this means to me. Like I said, the randomness of this death session, the fact that I'm doing it on a day many would say, shine it or whatever, consistency and all that stuff. And then someone like Mickey Howard comes to mind, and there's a show on TV1, which is a urban channel somewhere on the dial on some. It's sort of a lesser version, not lesser, but a smaller network for the BET subscriber. And but it has a great series called Unsung. And if I'm not mistaken, there is a Mickey Howard Unsung. And I wonder, and I hope, and I I imagine, I don't know, the talent for me in that case for that woman was prodigious. And the beauty again of having technology get to the point where any song is available at your fingertips. I listen to it a lot, and there have been times when I've been good, that kind of. And the fact that she played Billie Holiday, and it may have been in a different project because there's been a lot of overlap with someone playing Billie Holiday, but I'm fairly certain she was the one playing it in Malcolm X. And someone like Mickey Howard had a resemblance because she's striking, and she was very believable as Billie Holiday. Audra Day has since done it. That one was tough, The People versus Billie Holiday. But the fact that she was playing someone with a style but not a great range, let's just say Mickey Howard was holding back because her vocal prowess is beyond that. And again, these are all tendrils and synapses firing, and why does she come to mind? And it makes me wonder again about pursuing art. Does art help people? Person we're talking about, and all the people who've lost, had a deep appreciation of the arts, but making it a life, making it a career, can also, I don't know. It's just a lot of questions. And so as I sit here and do the death session, in its 75th iteration, and in its hopefully slow but steady climb to some kind of audience, or if it is going to be something to continue that helps or puts me in a place of I'm replacing, I guess, journaling in a sense with this camera forward vlog. And why is that even necessary? Why is that, what's up with that? I mean, so much of what's going on that I don't weigh in by design. So much of what's going on is just what the hell is up? What is going on? You think about Marvin Gaye, what's going on is like, it's been a refrain in this bizarre society we've created. And sometimes in art, something as banal as what's going on, that's become an anthem. It was an anthem, still is an anthem. And that's pretty much my take on any of it all, is what the hell is going on. And so what's going on today for me, and how do I make sense of it, and what kind of art, and then there's art and commerce, and that's the battle I fight, and the battle we all are sort of caught up in, and that's what the digital age has done to art. What has it done to art, And I go back to Hamnet and Hamlet, and how brilliant that dude Shakespeare was. And the speech that I was very familiar with, when he says, "What's he to Hecuba, or Hecuba to he, that he should weep for her?" It's a very dovetailed origami type of sentiment. Hamlet is disgusted with himself that an actor can portray a feeling of woe over a fictitious character, Hecuba. The actor, who is he to Hecuba? Like there's no there. It's imagination. It's acting. He's got more feeling for this person in a script than I have to do something about what's happened in my family. And that's all art, and that's the cynicism that creeps in, that's the battle I fought. And I guess when my floor was lower, it was what's the fucking point? Because what's going on is also can be what's the fucking point. And when you suffer a loss and it's in your family, and then I set up the lights and I put this microphone, I have to plug this shit in. It looks like it's I have to actively sit down to do this. I have to turn off my air filter. I have to knock on wood that the neighbors are going to be quiet. And for Hecuba, you know what I mean? This is what's Hecuba to me, and me to Hecuba, that I would weep for this or work so hard for this when there's real tragedy in families and real tragedy in the world. And it's, I guess, how I'm going to deal with it. And maybe that's putting too much pressure on it. Maybe that's ultimately why it's been a tough road for me. I'm trying to figure that out. What you do is not who you are. And unfortunately, I did blur it all. And, if you can get a grade for it and a degree for it, and even if it really means a lot to you, it's not the vital part of living. It is a facsimile. It is as close as you can get. And, but when your emotional floor, or your tank of ability to weather the storms, the slings and arrows, when the floor was below normal, now it's a little bit higher. Even if the profound sentiment about whether to stay in or stay out, or whether art is important, is I enjoy it. I have a good time. It makes people feel a little better. If it is mere distraction, and that's part of why, and this may be getting a little bit too close to weighing in, the phone and social media have replaced the escapism of art, the things that turned me on as a kid, and they've replaced it with, these are things you're supposed to care about. This is serious stuff, but it's the same amount of hours in front of the tube. The boob tube used to be the great, what'd they call it? The vast wasteland, right? Now it's not, it is a wasteland, but it's also a, it's an adrenaline gland killer. And And that's not art. And that's the thing, is we were now distracting ourselves with what I hoped to have done with my life, is devalued. And I don't mean this in a woe is me thing, or it's devalued by its lack of prominence. If there was ever prominence for this, every generation, every, I don't know, 25 years, every 30 years, the things that you went into study of every 25 years, they are almost relegated to artifact. You know what I'm saying? So like for example, if we want to stick with the film, Ethan Hawke's up for this Blue Moon, which is about Larry Hart. He wrote My Funny Valentine. What a hell of a song. Or he was the lyricist, right? Literally in the 40s, 30s, 40s, I guess all the way into the 50s, what would have been on the charts, the top 40 was show tunes. So they'll sell some units, or they'll sell some streams, and some, I'm sure Rent and Hair. I'm sure even after the heyday of show tunes, I'm sure I know Jesus Christ Superstar was like probably on the charts, but that is now relegated to that different niche. And then they say things like Bob Dylan and FM radio, then the charts became album rock, singer-songwriter, 60s, 70s, then the Beatles, and show tunes don't show up on the charts. And so you can just imagine what is the most penetrating and the most vital popular means of sharing art. And I think a lot of it is, down to user-based reels and things like that, if you participate. And then again, how many people can get their butts in a seat in a Broadway show? So when you talk about hits, you're talking about things that are minority participated in anyway. And so I guess the problem now is that there is not monoculture, or charts don't matter as much, or charts do because it's hits and it's likes and it's views and things like that. So things are more quantifiable, but they are so dispersed in terms of where the center of things is, that every 25 years, and who knows what it will be. And so the things that I cared about, John Malkovich in Burn This on Broadway, and then Eric Roberts taking over, like any of that stuff that meant the world to me is less important, and then movies, right? Oh man, Scorsese, or, any of that, even as far as the 90s, all of that is now, being whittled away to where star making is being done, in any number of ways, and there's no right way to do it. And yet I persist to do these things. And maybe where it has to change for me is I'm doing less art and I'm doing more soliciting for jobs. And maybe that was the inverse, would have maybe been a thought, right? Do more things I love and let the work or whatever come. But there are practical concerns. But when you understand that your floor is low, now it's a little higher, can you be a valid person without without a high star meter on IMDb? Yes, you can. Yes, I can. And that's really the most important thing. And so when you deal with loss and you deal with what's important to you and what kind of feeling you have for the departed, and how quickly these distractible and disposable mediums and not, and all of this stuff is in Shakespeare, even in the sonnets, even the marble will fade, and so something's got to stay through the ages, the spirit, the hope, and I guess what I would go back to is when you're low, the cynicism is why bother? When you get a little higher, you say, what's going on? How am I gonna proceed? And is still running the race, is that the best way to honor people who've come before? And rather than distract so you don't feel bad, maybe you put some pursuit of joy, of exaltation, of bonding, of a real life, the idea of still being able to draw breath could be enough, and that is the least you owe yourself, I think, and maybe the people who can't do it anymore. By the finite nature of this stuff. And now this death session, the thing I've been struggling with is week to week I have to find a clip. And I've had to scour these things and watch them back, which is not, trust me, not as not as joyful an occasion as you some might think. It's a drudgery to find 39 seconds, 20 seconds. There's been a few times where, like, I said something off the dome that was quippy and, sounded like copy, and I was able to lay it down and cut it out, and it sounded pretty good. And those reels did better than other reels on social media because, that's what that machine needs is sound bites. And I just don't speak in sound bites. I don't write in sound bites. And so, as I figure that out, and now I'm talking about death. And I think I list this in YouTube, and I have to figure out the best ways to feed the algorithm with, I say, entertainment, and then I'm talking about death and and obscure R&B and I don't know, man, an existentialism or whatever the fuck it might be. I don't have the academic terms for it, but I've always said, and this is where it gets really pedantic for sure, that the study of drama is the heading, and then within drama would be comedy and tragedy. So, and the idea, I think, what we have filtered out of things, and I've always said this, and I think that's why, if your streaming has sort of brought this stuff to bear, with the complicated anti-hero stuff that was prevalent in the prestige TV premium cable stuff, is that comedies can be dark, and comedies, in my opinion, need more moments of seriousness, and dramas need more levity so that they're bearable. And I guess where people are always afraid is when it comes to marketing, and that's where the art and commerce gets, because how the fuck do you label it? How do you label it, And we talked about Hamnet, and Hamnet is not funny. And maybe this is the other thing. You can't, without the center square or the arbiters of taste we once had, I don't know if I know that I've sought out more Hamnet material, and my feed is now, it seems to me that part of why that is a hit by today's standards, or has had an impact by today's standards, is that it harkens and reminds us of the living spirit, and it reminds us of the power of, I guess, connection and things like that, and the power of an artist with mastery and with talent and with ability. And I'm talking about Shakespeare, not per se the actors in the thing, but just that dude playing the piano of dramatic text like a genius, like that's the stuff. And so the hearkening in the digital age it's giving a vivid feeling of, we need that, and that's why it's resonating. And then I guess you have the Chris Pratt movie where he's sitting in a chair doing Minority Report and like enhance, and just sitting in a chair trying to solve a crime digitally by looking at Ring cameras. Like that's the pitch on that, and they made it. And maybe that's not I don't know how it's doing at the box office, but it's been mocked to a degree because it's you know. And then Hamnet's got like a rusty barn and like so much peat moss and so much moisture of forest and so much no electricity, and just Shakespeare's hanging out on the docks and shit. Like that seems to be resonating more than, you know, like a movie about a guy trying to, you know, imagine a movie of a camera over my shoulder looking over at what I'm looking at on my phone. But that's where it's heading, and that's why that's a narrowing of the lens. We're narrowing our lens instead of expanding our field of view, and I hope to fight that in myself, and I don't know. And again, with my floor being higher, but things feel like setbacks. Things feel like almost like what they refer to as what's the opposite of remission? What do they call it? A setback. I'm blanking on that term, but you know what I'm saying. I had a meltdown that I'm not proud of over a technology issue. It's a long, boring story about a login and that cycle of hell that you get into with user IDs and passwords, and being able to log in and I did not handle it well, and I had company, and it was you know, a relapse. It felt like a relapse of bringing that floor down. Or it's more about when that floor was low, I was responding like that about everything. And so when I've got to the point where I understand there's that distance between the nadir and the apex, in that nether world of slippage, it felt like slippage, and it felt like you know, I'm not all together. And then when you try to raise up, and then an actual event occurs, and then you're wondering where your feelings are, you know, then that feels like, you know, also am I out of sorts, to say. And you know, I say that I don't share personal things, but I'm sharing probably more about a thought process which is personal, and you know, to the degree that maybe it's best kept hidden in plain sight as far as reachability of this podcast or this vlog. And maybe I should get on with the songs, which is funny, right? This me like transitioning to a segment. I do the bit about the 75, and then I do what's on my mind, and then I have to get to business, which is the song on my playlist, on my all-time playlist, and I think we're up to 4. But I'm gonna do something that I'm trying to kind of be. You save it for the end, right? And that way, you know, if anybody's watching these. And I don't want to hide them, but what I think I'll do, which I should have thought of sooner, but I'm learning from other podcasters and other reaction video people, is if I put the song that I'm going to talk about as I compile my all-time playlist, as if anyone were interested in it, you don't have to watch anything because I'm giving you the link. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to do the link for the song I'm going to pick today next week, so that as you scroll through, you can see it. But if you're just going to listen, you got to kind of listen to the end, see what's the next song on the playlist. And to skip the week so that this week's I'll just sort of put the last 3. And so before this gets out of control and it's 90 songs, I'm going to have to at least keep it simple with listing the last 3 songs, even though this would be the 4th on the list. And the song this week is, like I said, it's randomly earworms, things that I want to hear, but it's and it's going to skew oldies but goodies, 90s and 80s, but there'll be some new stuff in there and some random stuff. But the hit is Lessons in Love by Level 42. Now, Level 42 had a bigger hit. And that's not that I tend to always go with I like 2-hit wonder. A big fan of like 2-3-hit wonder bands, or bands that were considered 1-hit wonders, but the album was so dope that, I think that there are sub-hits, and if you're on a music app, the ones with the asterisk are the hits, and those are how you cherry pick a band's good songs. But if you so anyway, and Lessons in Love I think did chart very well, but it is Something About You is the bigger song for Level 42. They're a British pop band, jazz influence. Their bass player is known as a virtuosic bass player, and you'll hear that, and that's why I like this song. And also what I like is their lyrics are very the Brits really are, and going back to Hamnet and Shakespeare and Hamlet and all that, they're very literate in their lyrics, and they'll use a turn of phrase that is definitely for the Vassar set, that's what I appreciate about it. But this one has a dope bass line, Lessons in Love, and Level 42. And I guess I'm going to either have to eventually start putting these things embedded into the show. I don't want to get into playing the music, just because I don't want strikes and things like that on YouTube. But what I like about this song is the bass and the bottom line, and then there's some I don't know if it's syncopation, but the rhythm section, if putting the bass in front is also then the drums become part of the song. So the tempo and some of the drum hits and the cymbal hits timed with the bass and in with the song, it's for me a very visceral song, and again the lyrics, and again in this case the vocals are also, I think, in the baritone range, which is something I don't prefer necessarily, but as a young performer, I was a baritone with a couple of tenor notes, and so it's refreshing to not hear that screechy vocal and that whiny metalhead, falsetto, and like this is a guy singing. He's hitting some notes, but it's definitely more of a baritone voice range. And so Lessons in Love is the song, and again, I'm gonna be having to scour this episode to find something to share via social media, which I don't even think cross-pollinates, but it is part of this process of staying with this, of continuing on in the spirit of the departed, and it helps me focus my week, and so I will persist and hope that you have a good week in the face of what could be either what's the point, or how do we move on, or what's going on. So try to stay up, and check out Nikki Howard. I gotta figure that out. Mickey Howard. I think it's Mickey. Anyway, she's fantastic. Level 42 is fantastic, and Lessons in Love. So we'll see you next week. Carl D on the Death Session. Peace.